was a business guy. I was the guy reading about business all the time, reading business books all the time. That's what I knew. I mean, I was wired that I always, I started my first business when I was 12. I was buying and selling baseball cards, buying and selling stamps, anything I could do to make money. I was hustling and trying to do so. And it was great. I made money, and I mean, it was, and I learned as much about business when I was 9, 10, and 12 as I learned any other time.
Find something you love to do and then be great at it. Not average, not marginal, not good enough, but if you can be great at it, be great at it. If you are the greatest videographer in the history of videographers, people don't care about cell phones. What is it that you can do that makes them know that the way you do it is special? And if you can do that and convey it, then you'll be fine.
Being an entrepreneur is about being a problem solver, right? What is selling? Selling is not convincing. Selling is helping. As tech entrepreneurs here, if you're going to a customer, whether it's a consumer or you're in B2B, either you're making your customer's life easier, either you're reducing your stress, or you're making it harder and you're increasing their stress. I mean, over the years, I think some of the things I've come to learn, particularly dealing with some of these Shark Tank companies, is one of the greatest skill sets that an entrepreneur, employee, salesperson can have is reducing stress. If you find that when you go to work, stress increases the minute you walk in the door, you've got a problem. If you have an employee and the minute they walk in the door, you have a problem and they have a problem. And what I've found is the best companies, the best employees that I have, the best investments that I have are the people who reduce stress, because those are the people we don't want to give up. They may not, they don't make the most noise, they don't always get the biggest paychecks, they don't always close the biggest deals, but when there's problems that need to be solved, they're already working on them before you're even aware of them. Those are the people that we love. Because if you think about all your personal experiences, would you rather do business with somebody who creates stress, or do you want to do business with the person who reduces stress?
Selling is always about helping. Selling is always about understanding the person you're talking to and what their needs are. And if someone can help me make my life easier, yeah, what's the definition of a great salesperson? Someone who can reduce the stress of their salespeople. And if in looking at your company and looking at your life and looking at your goals, if you're able to go out there and recognize that whether it works or doesn't work, you're putting yourself in a position where you're helping somebody, not convincing somebody, and you're reducing their stress, you're gonna be okay. It's gonna work out. And that's the confidence I've built in myself that wasn't necessarily always there. But I learned that if I try to help, if I reduce people's stress, good things can happen.
When you're starting your own company, you don't want to have to spend money hiring an accountant. If you've gone through all these classes, you don't have to hire a lawyer to incorporate, right? You can probably figure out yourself. And so your cost of opening up a business drops. But even more important than all that, I learned how to learn. And learning became far more important to me, because the one certainty in business is that it's always going to be changing. If you're not always learning, to this minute, if I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my ass. The greatest source of your paranoia should be knowledge. If someone else knows more than you do, and if you're not learning, if you don't know how to learn, if you don't have a thirst for learning and acquiring information, you're SOL.
Nice is way undervalued. Particularly in this day and age, if you turn on the news, everything seems like it's going to get blown up, right? Being nice just makes life so much easier. The nicer I got, the more effective people around me got, the more productive they got, the more sales we had. I was undervaluing nice. And so when you find yourself going to work, when you're finding yourself dealing with customers, when you're finding yourself making decisions, We all get that agita, right? That feeling in our stomach, that tenseness, that stress at various points in times that we all have to go through. But sometimes you just need to calm the fuck down, right? Take a deep breath and be nice. Because you'll find out that people will do much more. If you reduce the stress of people and you're nice, you're going to have such a huge advantage. No matter what your technology is, no matter how it compares, even if it's a download for an app, people will still have to deal with you. Your culture will come through. Being nice, being supportive, reducing stress, that all comes through even in an app.
I found this product, powdered milk, that was cheaper and everybody needed to save money. And I was going to go out there and sell it because it was cheaper. Now it didn't taste quite as good. And so but I went out there to try to sell it. Failed miserably. But I learned how to make the sales effort even when things weren't going right. I learned that the rejection was, every no got me closer to a yes. That not every product was perfect, but I could take those same skills, even in failure, and translate them. Sales cures all. Lots of companies come in and say, I have a great idea, or I have a company, and you talk to the entrepreneur, and I'm like, why aren't you selling? This is your whole company. There's never been a company in the history of companies to survive without sales. If you can't sell, if it's your company and you can't sell, you're not going to be in business long, particularly when you're starting up and it's just you. And sales is not something you can give to somebody else and say, okay, I'm just going to hire salespeople. You got to sell. When people get some momentum, they want to all of a sudden go big, right? Particularly that's kind of a .com thing. Let's buy our customers, raise a ton of money. Well, one of my buddies, Howard Tallman, says it best. He goes, you got to nail it before you scale it. If your company doesn't work, making it big won't solve your problems. It'll just add to your problems. Diversity is not just a word, and it's not just a body count. It's not just a checklist. It's not even about inclusion. It's about recognizing the skill set that somebody different than you brings to the table and putting that to use.
When you start a business and you start to talk about somebody, you're never in a vacuum with no competition, unless you're just extremely lucky. And if there's going to be competition, that means somebody else knows your business as well as you do when you get started. And if you walk into a competitive environment and they still know more about the business than you do and more about your customers, you're going to lose. But most people don't consider that. They don't do the work. They don't learn more about their industry. They don't know even about their business. And so you've got to put in the effort to know more about your industry than anybody else. And that's the brains part, and that's the effort part as well. Because look, if you're competing with me, you better know what you're doing, otherwise I'm going to kick your ass, and you're not going to outwork me.
Don't think about the exits. Just think about surviving and then keeping your customers happy and growing. If you're worried, if you're already spending the money you haven't made yet or have a vision for it, those are brain cycles that you're taking away from getting those first customers and making them happy. It's great to dream. I'm not saying I used to drive by the big houses with the hole in my floorboard and hope someday I can do that and use that as motivation. So it's great to dream, but you got to stay focused as much as possible. Raising money always seems to be like the big thing to entrepreneurs coming in. Well, if I can only raise this money. Raising money isn't an accomplishment, it's an obligation. The best equity is sweat equity. What you can do and seriously, if you're putting in the sweat and you're putting in the time and you're not out there raising money and you're grinding it out and you're hustling, then you deserve to give yourselves a hand, because that's what it's all about. Because if you don't do that, it's not going to work.
Whatever industry you pick, if you outwork everybody, if you try to be a little smarter than everybody, if you try to be a better salesperson than everybody, if you try to be better prepared than everybody, you've got your best chance. Because if you don't do it and somebody else does, you know, I have the saying, work like someone's trying to take it all away from you. You know, I actually work like someone's spending 24 hours, working 24 hours to take it all away from you. And that's kind of the way I look at it.